Hello, I'm Paul Nisi from FronTowardsGamer.com.
And I'm Lido of Unstoppable Force meets the Immovable Object.
And this is Comic Station issue number 29 for July 17, 2013. For the new releases for July 17, 2013, we're going to kick off, first of all, noticing that we have Blood Brothers from Dark Horse Comics number 1. Not going to go into too much details. Previous issues of Comic Station, we did a review of this, so we're not going to go in details, but obviously it did come out today, so we wanted to do a little notice of that. Next one we're going to have, this is probably going to catch your eye when you walk into the shelf. This is from DC Comics, is Batman 66, number 1. Obviously, and it says it right on here, it's trying to embody and take on the old television show from the late 60s, and you can tell they're really trying to, because when you open it up and they have this, looks like a regular comic that they put this filter over it, just old-timey filter kind of thing, and it just didn't work.
It's made to look a lot like those Liechtenstein paintings that are the big things of, oh, Brad doesn't love me anymore, that kind of thing, but here it makes it almost look like a 3D comic that you're reading without the glasses.
In certain points where the background color is supposed to be like green, it's dots of green.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
It felt a bit like they abused the psychedelic nature of the 60s and they just paint random colored backgrounds.
So they didn't really hold up very well to the authenticity of the 66, even though it was a television show. Maybe doing something in the art style of that would have been nice.
Agreed there.
Now this is where we conflict a little bit.
Yep.
I thought it came over a little bit trying to be campy and trying to be lame, like we love or hate about the Batman television show.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it felt flat against me.
I said, for me, I really liked the campy corniness of it, and I thought that it worked really well against the backdrop we have, a lot of dark, broody Batman stories, so I really liked that.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
It just, some of the jokes just, they try too hard, it felt like.
Sometimes you can feel that it's like, that was really supposed to be a groaner.
Yes, and there are Riddler and Catwoman make an appearance in this. There is a reference to Joker where Riddler says that's a little too Joker. Liked a little bit of those, and the characters were interesting, but again, just kind of came off.
Like I said, I liked the Catwoman in this. I was a little mixed on the Riddler, actually. I like the Frank Gorshin Riddler. He may be my favorite portrayal of the Riddler, but here he felt like they added a few too many modern spins on him where he lost his stuff there at times when Batman figured out his riddle, and that didn't feel really true to the old show.
I felt that actually it came through a little too much of Jim Carrey.
I get that a lot,
and that just
we don't need to go there.
Yeah, exactly. So that is our Batman 66. If you're a really big fan of the television show, check it out. If you're a really big fan of Batman and you want to check it out, welcome to. Otherwise, I kind of skip it.
I would agree. I am a big fan of the series, and I think that's part of what's informing my opinion, so take that for what it's worth.
Alright. Next one we have is Red Sonja, number 1 from Dynamite.
Gail Simone one. Everyone's been waiting for it.
This is immediately why I picked this up. Gail Simone.
Yeah.
I love everything she does, and I thought her writing really came through on this, because it is kind of a stereotypical kind of story here. It's a barbarian woman instead of Conan, and you just basically replace the two. But it's the character that sets them apart, and I think Gail and Walter really set these apart. And it opens up where, after a victorious battle, this King Damien surveys his land, and he finds, and he has liberated this castle, and he finds 2 women in a dungeon that was kind of used in like a Colosseum style, where they were put to fight against each other to the death, and only 2 women survived, and obviously one of them was Sonja.
Sonja, yeah.
And I really like this, and I know you said you like this, is they skip ahead.
Yeah.
It says 3 full cycles later, which I'm guessing is probably 3 years or something.
Yeah, that's years in Sumerian talk.
So it skips ahead, and I like that. It's not a retelling.
Yeah, we don't waste a lot of time in the training phase like we did in things like Batman Begins or Batman Year 1 or Year 0 or all these things that just love to go through the hero not being the hero. She just goes right to being Red Sonja after that.
And they set up enough backstory where you know obviously she's fierce because she lived through the whole Colosseum thing, and you know she's still living and so forth. So enough of a background to just jump you right into it. Now there is a bunch of plot, and the storyline basically, King Daemon calls for her help, and she actually heeds the call only because he's the only king that actually showed some mercy.
It's very Beowulf that way.
Yeah, very much. She owes him one, basically. It's interesting. The storyline basically goes forward, and there's a threat. Not only are they suffering from the plague, but a outside force is threatening them as well. With monsters, makes you feel a little better when there's a whole bunch of blood and gore, which there is plenty in here. I liked it. The artwork was beautiful.
Great artwork in this.
Really good.
Yeah.
Overall, I liked it. If you like Red Sonja, this is a definite. If you like Conan or any of the barbarians kind of stories, definitely check this out.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of a plotting in the middle.
I will say there looked like there were quite a lot of words on those pages. I will say that.
Yes, but Gale has a very good way of having a lot of, not a lot, but a more than usual amount of text while not making it drag down.
A solid pace of the text.
She does bring that to this, and that's really, really important.
Gotcha.
Some other author or writer would have messed that.
Got bogged down in the text, I hear you.
Yep. And the last one
is
Daemon
by Boom. Yeah, I'm the one who read this one. It's actually a pretty interesting, fresh take on vampires, though bogged down a little bit by falling back on old tropes to fill in the not-so-fresh areas. The idea here is that daemon are people like Renfield from the original Dracula novel, humans who help out the vampires. And that idea to follow such a character is filtered through the backdrop of a big, warring vampires who have like a mafia type thing going on. In that element, it's very Blade and very Godfather that way. The vampires look like the stereotypical Euro trash you sort of expect with them. And that's kind of the only place where it falls down, because otherwise, a basic story like this, of just two vampire clans and the feuding, it's very simple when it comes down to execution, and this is executed very well.
I do like how the Renfield character is put together. He's not crazy like in Dracula, and more like you said in the Blade series, where they're actually fully functioning and they're just trying to help.
It actually reminds me a lot of maybe like a Guy Ritchie kind of movie. He feels a lot like a character from that sort of film who starts on the bottom and is trying to work his way up to something greater in a criminal enterprise.
And I thought the artwork has this interesting style. Most of the time when there is a vampire, it is obviously, it's typically at night, but I like the art style, how it flips from a lighter palette to a darker palette. And I thought that really complemented it well.
I would call the artwork stylized in a very good way that complements the series.
Yes, I would agree. Cool. All right. And that is our new releases for this issue. And up next, we actually have 5 reviews coming up. So we're going to try to bang through those pretty quickly.
Start off our reviews today with Skin Trade, an adaptation of the George R.R. Martin novel about werewolves, if you couldn't tell by the cover, which is unfortunately kind of lackluster. Despite the pedigree that it has with George R.R. and his hit Game of Thrones show, the comic itself just feels too much directly like a novel. There's so much in it that would work if it was in text format, but in a monthly episodic format like a comic, it leaves the reader kind of dry and left out. There aren't any clues or dangling elements here. It feels like something that would be better read if I knew I had an immediate chapter after me instead of just single. The characters can also come off very forgettable, and it makes quite a few narrative mistakes.
Yeah, and a lot of them, like you said, you couldn't even remember the characters afterwards.
Exactly.
It really does seem like it fits the novelization, but it doesn't leave that carrot dangling at the end, or even that little satisfaction at the end to hold you over to the next issue.
There's no big wow moment at the end of it that makes me want to get excited for the next issue.
Exactly. Second review we have is Oz #1 from Zenescope. This one carries on. It's a tie-in to the Grimm Fairy Tales universe. Not directly yet, but it is finally bringing that 4th realm to the Grimm Fairy Tales universe, where you have all the other ones. This one finally brings in Oz. It opens up beautifully. You can tell there's problems in Oz. It comes forward. Dorothy, obviously a little more grown up than the show went on, but I love the changes they did to it. The characters are... Dorothy is a strong female character, and like a lot of Zenescope's characters, even though she tends to wear a little less clothing, she really does come strong, especially in the part where her highborn blood starts to show a little bit, and she enjoys that power. It is beautifully drawn, but my favorite thing actually is Toto. He's a giant wolf.
Oh, that's not. I like
and that's an improvement to me,
Yeah.
honestly. A little yappy dog to a giant wolf. I'll take the giant wolf.
Yeah.
Comes through, perfect tie-in to the Grimm Fairy Tales universe. Really good standalone story if you're not into the whole backlog into it, but it promises to bring in more and to overflow into all the other Nexus, and the pacing was beautiful. It left so many crumbs that really, unlike Skin Trade, really left that carrot and really left you satisfied.
And now from a good book to a bad one, Dawn, Daughter of the Swordsman, and Other Tales. I did not like this book at all. If you are a new reader and know nothing of Dawn, it leaves you dangling with no page to ground you, similarly like Hoax Hunters did. It's an anthology story that tells you nothing about any of the characters, and I mean any of them. You have to do your own research if you want to understand even who Dawn is in the book.
Well, this is a classic, like you said, anthology of Steven Seagal's earlier works. Dawn is an older comic, and they're kind of re-releasing it now. I don't know if they're re-releasing it now, maybe to bring the character back.
I know that Siegel hopes to have a new Dawn miniseries coming out next year, and I think this is trying to build buzz for that, or like build up maybe funds for that. I don't know in particular.
Possible, get the name out there so
exactly,
they recognize it. Artwork is the artwork cover, beautiful, really grabs your eyes.
Great cover.
Kind of disappointing inside though.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing. And even if you are an old reader of Dawn, I'm not sure how much this will bring to you. If you just want to see more Dawn stories, and there's a little bit of interesting backstory with Darian's character. If you don't know who that is, I'm sorry. But
a lot of people won't.
Yeah, exactly. To all you Dawn fans out there, if that was for you. But like I said, if you want to get more into like some really old stuff, it's nothing that was too earth-changing to the narrative of the series that seems to be ongoing right now. It seems to be something more just made kind of for fun and for fans, like hardcore fans.
Exactly, and overall, basically, might be a little outdated.
Yeah,
sorry, Siegel, and we love your later works, Sam and everything.
Yeah,
and you can see some of the inspiration for some of his earlier works, and you can see how his artwork did grow and where he picked up to what he is now. But overall, it's, unless you're a really big Siegel fan in particular, or a Dawn fan in particular, and you have to have everything, it's outdated.
It really does feel outdated.
Right. From that, we're sandwiching good and bad. I like this.
Nice.
So the next one we have is Unforgivable #1 Experiment 1134. That's a mouthful. It's from Brainmachine Comics. It's an interesting take on the Judeo-Christian biblical scenes and stories. This Nicodemus? Nicodemus.
Okay, yeah.
It's really confusing words. He used flowery, poetic words that really amounts to nothing. And essentially he creates the universe. He creates life.
Okay.
He starts off, which of course, what happens when you create life? Stuff goes wrong, because it is life. You create light, you create darkness. Darkness, it creates demons, angels, so forth. And basically, he ends up, by creating life, he starts the war between heaven and hell.
Okay.
And so that is the unforgivable experiment that he did.
Gotcha.
So, artwork, really, really conflicting here. At certain points, especially on scenes where it is scenery and just characters, beautiful artwork, especially once you get into the Eden part. Otherwise, action parts, the beginning part with Nicodemus, and later in the action scenes, the war between heaven and hell, completely loses you. There's so much going on. As beautiful as the artwork is, there was just too much, and you couldn't focus, and it made you lose track of who's fighting where and what.
I understand.
And so that kind of leaves me off of a bad taste. At the end, it left me confused, satisfied.
Okay, I understand.
Like, I liked it, but I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah.
And I was really confused, obviously, on the plot line. And so it made me have to go back and read for a second, maybe even a third or fourth time, to actually get it. And while I didn't mind doing that, I don't know too many readers are going to go back and read something 2 or 3 times just because it's confusing. And not because there's so much depth to it, but because it's just confusing.
I understand. Like, there's a very strong difference between complexity and confundity.
Yes. So, it's really interesting. I'm looking forward to see what they do with it. Obviously, going off the Judeo-Christian Bible and everything, they got plenty to work with. And I'm interested to see if Nicodemus comes back in and what his part is to play on all this.
Nice. On to our last review of Kafka, a hardcover coming out. It's a very...
This is the only one actually coming out today.
Yeah.
So all the other ones came out last week. This is a brand new one coming out today.
This is a new one coming out. It's a very... Okay, it's a very good hardcover book. It's a very basic story, similarly to that Daemon thing I was talking about earlier. It's about, after this the movie was due, it's about a secret agent who's undercover, and then his cover gets blown, and he has one day to take back his family and his life. Which, you've heard that a million times before since the Bourne trilogy started. But here it has a nice new wrinkle with the element of, comic books, because the secret agent has the ability to make people see him as whatever he wants, and see things as however he wants them to. And that's a nice wrinkle to explore. I wouldn't call the book incredibly original per se, but it doesn't really need to be. Again, like Daemon, it comes down to the execution, and here it's executed quite well.
Well, in its time, it might have been original, because this is, again, it's a collection of older issues. This is a complete collection of Kafka.
Yeah.
And at its time, it might have been original, but now it's kind of...
It feels a little more done. But on the plus side, again, that the unoriginality of the plot does in no way hinder the story, and the artwork really makes this book worthwhile. It's done in the dulcet tones of black and white, which are great here. Unlike Satellite Sam, which I reviewed earlier, which the heavy inking weighs down the book, here it's inked spectacularly. Everyone you can make out, every panel, every person looks good. And they also do a kind of clever thing where certain panels are done in color to show that the secret agent's wife is the only real bit of color in the black and white world he lives in. Overall, I'd
have to say it that way, too.
Yeah, there's no other way to say something like that.
So, I do like that little touch, and I like... The artwork style really grabbed me and made me really like that. The story might be a little dated, but overall, if you really like these kind of stories, you like these David Bourne, the mystery kind of stories, this is probably a good one, and it is a complete collection. It's an older comic, but if you know it's an older comic, you can set your standards at where you need to set them.
Yeah. I will say, it is not actually about the writer Kafka. Just, that's a fair warning out there. It has nothing to do with it.
Yes. Alright, so that was our 5 reviews in hopefully a shotgun kind of way going forward and not taking too much time. But, so we're going to end, that is our issue for Comic Station issue number 29 for July 17th, 2013. I do want to end though with a special notice, obviously. This week is Sandiego Comic Con, and lots of big news, lots of everything. And so much coming forward. I can't wait to see what they come out with. Not just in comic books, but comic book movies. Tie-ins, everything.
Anything you're looking forward to the most?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to, obviously, it's not going to be in Sandiego Comic Con, but the Wolverine coming up. Everyone here, if you guys have been watching since our Comic Station began, I'm a big Wolverine fan.
Nice.
I want to see more about the Thor.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
And R.I.P.D. I want to see more on that.
I hear you. I'm looking forward to, at Sandiego Comic Con, supposedly there's going to be a big reveal relating to the new Godzilla movie they're making, and I'm really looking forward to whoever that turns out to be. I'm a big Godzilla fan.
I like how we're talking comics and most of everything we mentioned has been movies.
Yeah!
But I'm also looking really forward just what new issues are coming out, any more tie-ins. I really enjoy a lot of... Zenescope has been putting out a lot of good stuff. I've been enjoying their tie-ins and jumping in. I'm looking for a lot of small publishers.
I get that. I'm more watching the biggies here. I'm interested to see what DC is going to do, if they're going to continue their policy of dropping the 5 lowest selling books, keep replacing them with new titles. It's they've been doing for a long time now to mix success, looking at you, Green Team. And additionally, I'm also interested because Marvel recently announced their next big event, which has to do with turning the Inhumans into the mutants. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, while you're looking at the big ones, I'll look at the small ones. I like my small publishers, and a lot of originality. I want to see what crazy stuff they come up with, and I like that some of these bigger names, like the Gail Simones and Kirkmans, are coming to the smaller publishers and trying new things. That's where I'm going to look. So hopefully we'll cover everything in between the two of us, and we'll have some stuff to report next week. Alright, thank you very much for joining us on Comic Station issue number 29. I'm Paul Nisi from Front Towards Gamer.
I'm Lido Jovicchini of Unstoppable Force Meets the Immovable Object.
And Scott might be joining us next week. If not, hopefully we'll see you then. As always, see you next week.